Welcome to the March 17th meeting of Owen Sound City Council. We've completed our in-camera portion of our meeting, and we're now here for the public agenda. And I thank all of those who have journeyed out on this cold evening to be here in person tonight. Thank you. We will engage in a moment of silent reflection at this time. Thank you. Are there any additional items for tonight? Councillor Adair.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'll be asking for a report on Economic Development Corporation.
Okay. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to report on the Grey County Wardens Forum.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I would like two items. I'd like to talk about the Healthy Communities Conference in May, and I'd like to talk about a climate change movie for this week.
Any other members of council? Staff. Ms. Corsi.
Thank you. We do have an additional item, the Operations Committee minutes to be considered.
Ms. Coulter.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a matter dealing with the Healthy Kids Community Challenge application.
Any other members of staff, council? Seeing none. Disclosure of pecuniary interests, please. None. Confirmation of the minutes held on March 3rd.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wright, that the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 3rd, 2014 as printed be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Resolution moving council and committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wright. The City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We're now in committee of the whole. It is council's direction tonight that we hold a notice of intention to pass a bylaw to submit a question to the electors of the City of Owen Sound. Now, this is with regards to the question of fluoridation of the municipal water, and the intent of tonight's public meeting is to clearly discuss the intent to either have a question on the ballot or to not have a question on the ballot and turn it back to the members of the community to take a petition. So, I will ask for comments from the city clerk first.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can advise that this is further to council taking a recommendation from the Operations Advisory Committee asking for the staff of the city to give notice of intention to pass the bylaw and also to give notice of a public meeting. Notice of both of those were given within the 10-day requirement under the Municipal Elections Act. They were given through the Sun-Times on March the 7th and through the city's website and on social media. I can advise that no written comments have been received by the clerk's office at this time. If there are people that are going to be speaking this evening, they will be providing personal information. It will be collected under the authority of the Municipal Act, and the information will be used to complete the process of determining whether or not the bylaw will pass this evening. If anybody has a question about the collection of their information, they can direct their questions to myself, the city clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now invite comments from any members of the public who are here this evening. If you could please step forward to the podium, and if you could just turn on the microphone. That way the folks that are watching at home on Rogers Television and many of us in the room will be able to hear you more clearly. There. And if you could just state your name and your address, or in this case, Dr. Lynn, welcome, your position.
Thank you very much, Your Worship and Councillors, and I'm Dr. Hazel Lynn, the Medical Officer of Health for Granbrews Counties. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this very important issue. It has significant implications for our health. The epidemiology of dental disease and fluoridated drinking water has a very long history. Since the 1940s, and the issues have changed over the years, the new knowledge is discovered and new technology has been developed. So once again, studying and reviewing this issue is a good thing. But remember, we are living longer and we are living better with more teeth, mostly because of fluoride, or a lot of it to do with fluoride, both in the water and in our toothpaste and in many other ways. The decision about water fluoridation has been complicated by various special interest groups, offering inaccurate information sometimes, out-of-date information often, and a significant amount of rhetoric. Most of the attempts try to champion an individual's rights and freedoms. But I would hope, as we look at this larger issue of our responsibility for our community's health, the health of the poor, the health of the disadvantaged, and the health of those at risk in our community, I'm suggesting that should a plebiscite be presented, and I think there should be discussion about this, and a plebiscite, I'm asking that Owen Sound citizens lay the groundwork now to make a good decision. That is get accurate, up-to-date information from credible sources. Use the sources that look at the common good and accurately assess any risk at this point. Don't base your opinion on things from 1940s and 1950s, and base your decision on substantiated expertise. Please consider the health of the population and what would be best for the 25% of our children in Owen Sound who live below the poverty line, as well as the seniors who can't afford the extensive dental care they might need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Welcome, Dr. Ward.
Thank you, Your Worship and councillors. I was a bit taken back by the presentation, since I thought the question tonight was just whether or not we put this question to the public in the fall, regarding it. Obviously, water fluoridation is a very controversial public health policy.
Sorry, Dr. Ward, many of us do know you, but the clerks, just for the record, if you could just give your name.
I apologize. Dr. David Ward, 277th Avenue East, Owen Sound.
Thank you.
Obviously, there are passionate advocates on either side of this issue, and we heard one from Dr. Hazel Lynn, and I second the fact that we'd really need to have a very accurate discussion with credible scientific information. So I would support council putting a question to the public in the fall regarding stopping water fluoridation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Other speakers, welcome.
Bevan Lahid, it's 225 3rd Avenue East in Owen Sound. I defer to Dr. Lynn in terms of expertise, but I would also hope that you folk would carefully consider the expertise that has been given to you, not only by the medical officer of health, but also by the dental community, who have both spoken. Now, normally, I would be one of the first persons who would want to have questions like this put before the public. But it's my understanding, because of regulation, that you're going to come up with a convoluted question in which I fear people may not vote according to what they really want. And I'd like to give you a simple example of that. A week and a half ago, I asked the clerk to circulate a letter to you that was going to go in the Sun-Times. It was in a week ago last Friday night. On Saturday night, I was at the Attack game, and a friend and acquaintance whom all of you know because of the role he played in Owen Sound nailed me in the stairway and said, "How could you possibly want to get rid of fluoridation?" I tried to explain to him that I felt very strongly that the issue was settled as far as I was concerned, and that we didn't need a plebiscite. He said, "That isn't what you said. I'll send you a copy." I said, there was another letter there. I said, "Dr. Ward had a letter, and he was opposed." No, he wasn't. He was in favor. Now, without getting into more than that in terms of the story, if my understanding is correct, that you're going to end up with a double negative, essentially, in terms of expressing our will, I fear that a lot of people will vote in a direction other than what they really want. I think that the issue has been very successful. Fluoridation has been successful in our community. It's been there for 50 years. We settled the issue at that point, and I would like to see council provide some real leadership and follow the advice of the experts. We have a medical officer of health and a dental community who stand together in terms of saying, this is something that we should continue with. I don't think we need a plebiscite. I think we need leadership. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Other members here to speak to this? Welcome.
Your Worship,
Welcome.
I am new to Owen Sound. I came from Toronto in September, and I'm just really excited that finally there is a means for the, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous about all
That's
of this.
okay.
I live on 7074 2nd Avenue West. My name is Marjorie Hsu.
Welcome to Owen Sound.
Thank you so much. I love the city, but I feel it is so important that we hold the plebiscite, that the whole public is aware of this very critical situation with the fluoride in Owen Sound. I've been fighting this in Toronto without any success, but here we finally have an opportunity for the public to speak out. I wonder how many people, council members here, are aware where the source of the fluoride that is put in our drinking water is from. Does anyone know?
The source of fluoride is a reduction process in the manufacturing process. As with many other of the chemicals we use.
Such as, for example, what are the other chemicals that we use?
Well, as an example, chlorine is made by the reduction of sodium chloride. Steel is from the reduction of iron.
But what, this fluoride, could you be more?
I'm going to ask you, Mrs. Hsu, if you could, and thank you, Councillor Lemon. It's
Well,
great that we're getting a good lesson on the chemical composition of
The-
fluoride,
the
but
source-
let's talk about that question.
Well, because the source of the fluoride is not the same fluoride that Dr. Lin suggests putting, that has been placed in our drinking water, or that has been placed in this tube of toothpaste, okay? On the package it says, do not swallow. Do not use for children under the ages of 6. Keep out of reach of children under 6 years. If more than used for brushing is accidentally swallowed, get medical help or contact a poison control center immediately. Do not swallow. This is a pharmaceutical grade of fluoride. What is put in our drinking water is a toxic waste byproduct from phosphate fertilizer production. We are paying big corporations so that they can avoid paying toxic waste dumping charges. The fluoride that Dr. Lin recommends is this toxic waste material. Now, do you feel the public should have a vote to say, yes, we do not want this toxic waste material? It is against every pharmacological principle to prescribe a medication without a prescription. It is so highly against every medical profession. It is also, it's a violation of our human rights. I feel that the public absolutely has the need to address this situation and to have our voices heard. I also feel that perhaps it would be wonderful if Owen Sound is to be the retirement capital of seniors. The fluoride that is from the toxic waste material eats away at our bones, senior bones. It reduces the porosity. Oh, increases the porosity. It makes the bones more brittle. So we're going to have seniors. We'll have greater abundance of hip injuries. With all the ice that's out there, we're going to fall. I'm a senior. I'm 71 years old. And I will be, chances of me falling. So
We hear you. Thank you.
a plebiscite vote that is clearly worded. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there other members here who would like to speak to this matter? Welcome.
Hi, my name's Oliver. 576 15th Street West. Tartan. Yeah. So I'd urge the council to put this question on the ballot. There is overwhelming evidence from credible sources now saying, the risks of fluoride in the water outweigh the benefits. So I just urge you guys to really look at the current science, because it's really overwhelming how much credible, precise science there is out there right now. If you haven't looked, please do look. You'll be shocked. Your Worship, Mayor, I hope you do too, because I'm counting on you as a citizen. I'm counting on all you councillors as a resident of Owen Sound to really look into this. So that's it. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your comments. Welcome.
Hi. Drew Ferguson, Owen Sound, and for disclosure, I work for Public Health. Thank you, Your Worship, Council. So I'm going to raise some matters surrounding the 2010 plebiscite with regards to the fluoridation of municipal water undertaken by the region of Waterloo. And I want to raise this just to get it into a public forum. Waterloo held 3 plebiscites, the first 2 in 1981 and 82, pursuant to the provisions of the Fluoridation Act, RSO 1980. However, subsequent amendments to the Fluoridation Act, RSO 1990, required the regional municipality and not the city to hold their 2010 plebiscite. So what it meant was the changing landscape of legislation impacted in the process of how the voting would be undertaken during a plebiscite. So prior to their third plebiscite, Waterloo undertook a legislative review to determine who, in fact, had the legal authority to hold such a plebiscite. Prior to their third plebiscite, they identified the process for the discontinuation of the system was under the Fluoridation Act, RSO 1990, and the council of the municipality may, by bylaw, discontinue the fluoridation system. And it identified a vote process for discontinuance whereby the council may, before passing a bylaw, submit to the electors of the municipality the question in the following, the double negative as was talked about. Are you in favor of the discontinuation of fluoridation of public water supplies in this municipality? And when the vote receives an affirmative vote of the majority of the electors, the vote in question, the council passes the bylaw. In the old Fluoridation Act 1980, the term local municipality was not defined, so it fell to the Municipal Act. However, the Municipal Act 2001 changed the backdrop, providing a definition for local municipality in Section 1, lower tier meaning a municipality that forms part of an upper tier municipality for municipal purposes. And that is all part of a definition under Section 476, bracket 2. So the local municipality means a single, under the Fluoridation Act, the local municipality means a single tier municipality and a lower tier municipality excluding a lower tier municipality that forms part of a regional municipality for municipal purposes. So I'm pulling out all the definitions here to make sure I'm absolutely clear. So the Fluoridation Act is restrictive to a single-tier municipality and a lower-tier municipality, excluding a lower-tier municipality that forms part of a regional municipality for municipal purposes. So this raises the question, does the municipal amalgamation agreements between Owen Sound and Grey County affect this process? Are these agreements, which include funding, sharing of costs and services, sharing of resources and common obligations, are they fundamentally agreements for municipal purposes? And in effect, is Owen Sound excluded from the Fluoridation Act by virtue of being a lower-tier municipality that forms part of a regional municipality for municipal purposes? And if so, and this being the case, the municipality could not hold a plebiscite under the provisions of the Fluoridation Act. It would instead, if chosen to proceed by plebiscite, request Grey County to hold a plebiscite and put the question to the affected citizens following the options provided under the Municipal Elections Act, 1996. I know it's a little complicated, but proceeding under the Municipal Elections Act also changes the wording of the question from the Fluoridation Act to the following: should the municipality fluoridate the municipal water, yes or no? The Municipal Elections Act also provides that in order to be legally binding, at least 50% of the eligible voters had to vote on the question, and then 50% of those votes had to be in favor of the question. Now, this case has been circulated and identified the information is from Eric Davis, a municipal planner and law lawyer at White Duncan Linton Waterloo, and is published in the Municipal World March 2011 under the funny little title, Fun with Fluoride. Additionally, through the health unit, we sought legal opinion, and if requested, I can provide a letter of support and endorsement to this position. So based on this review, I would urge council to clarify their position and if necessary, seek a legal opinion on this effect, if any, that the issues have been raised here will have on the entire plebiscite question, because needless to say, a flawed process will compromise the eventual outcome, no matter which way it goes. That's part one. Part two addresses the use of a plebiscite to deal with complex and clearly technical issues. This type of process can evoke a compelling, visceral response based on unfounded hyperbole, as much as it can be based on reasoned and valued judgment. We've seen that here tonight. For that reason, I would urge this council to support moving the issue into the provincial sphere and support a resolution circulated by the Board of Health for the Grey Bruce Health Unit advocating for provincial government to amend regulations of the Safe Drinking Water Act requiring community water fluoridation for all municipal water systems when source water levels are below Health Canada recommended levels, and that the province provide the funding and technical support to municipalities that are required for them for community water fluoridation. And that would be my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ferguson. Further discussion? Please step forward. Yeah.
My name is Barbara Dolan, 401 5th Street East. My statement is simple. I like to have a choice in what I do in my life, and the drinking water that I choose to drink, I'd like to choose what's in it, and not having fluoride in it would be my choice. And I would really like it if it could be a question on the ballot. Question worded in such a way that it is obvious what your answer is would be also wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Haswell and Council, my name is Josh Kuzdak and I live just outside of Owen Sound. Regarding public policy, I think that this is a Charter of Rights and Freedoms issue, and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms supersedes all other legislation in Canada, and I believe it's something to the effect of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantee the rights and freedoms of each Canadian citizen, subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law that can be free and or demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. And what that basically means is that if any of our personal freedoms and liberties are called into question, and I believe this is one of them, the Charter will supersede that. For the record, I'm for the choice as well, and I would like the question to go to the ballot. First point I'd like to bring up is that the question on the ballot, according to Terry Myland, is a double negative, and the wording of the question, if it can't be reworded, we would like it to be explained very clearly to everyone so that they have a fair chance at knowing what they're actually being asked. And secondly, it's of utmost importance for everyone to understand that the Center for Disease Control in 1999 publicly admitted, and they're a global authority out of the United States on the fluoridation subject altogether, and they publicly stated in 1999 that there's absolutely no dental health benefit whatsoever to systemically ingesting fluoride. Any legitimate dental benefit whatsoever is for topical application only. So when they made that public statement, it pulled the carpet out from underneath the argument that it's okay to swallow this, because they, for fluoride, argued or publicly admitted that there's no advantage to swallowing it whatsoever. So at that point, we all have to ask ourselves, why are we adding this to our water? We need the people who actually want this. That's great. They can go out there and seek it. And the people who don't want it should be able to have the freedom to turn on their tap and have a poison-free glass of water. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other members of the public here this evening that would like to speak to this? Please.
Hello, thank you for giving me a chance to talk. My name is Tao Briggs. I live at 519 9th Street East here in Owen Sound. I think this is one of those issues that's very visceral, the visceral feeling. There's always going to be pros, there's always going to be cons. You know, it's not something that anyone's ever going to agree upon. When I hear all the talk about fluoride, there's a lot of the time there's this word medical, like a medicine, it's a medicinal use. And for me, I'm again pro-choice, that I would like to choose which medicines I use. And because there is something that was hard for me, the presentation given by public health, or I'm sorry, the gentleman before us, I was very confused. Basically what I got from that was that it may be better to push this off to the province and make this a bigger issue. To me, that doesn't seem like it's a good solution for us in this town, because making that into a bigger provincial thing just pushes us farther away from the chance to decide for ourselves, I feel like, because that's going to take years and years or however long to process this information. And he said a lot of the things that have been said tonight are hyperbole. And I think that was a direct point made towards that fluoridation is terrible. I think because there is so much research for both sides, how can you say that one side is hyperbole? What if we say that Dr. Hazel Lynn, which the presentation she's giving is hyperbole, that it's not that great for every single person? So I just want to be clear that there are two sides to every story, and it comes down to freedom of rights, you know, that I feel that I have the right to choose, or at least, and give it to Owen Sound. Let the people educate themselves. If everyone's apathetic and no one really cares, then half the people aren't going to vote, and half those people aren't going to vote for yes, then you guys are right back where we started, and everyone who wants fluoride is going to still have fluoride, you know, because that's only like I'm sorry, I'm not a mathematician, but however, whatever the percentage is that has to say yes, you know, if it's not such a big deal, then why can't we at least try? That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any other members of the community here? Good morning. Good evening, Dr. Edwards.
So I'm actually living in Chatsworth.
We still like people from Chatsworth.
Okay.
You bet.
And I got quite upset when Dr. Ward's letter was published in the paper, and it's not hyperbole, it's just misrepresentation of the solid information.
Dr. Edwards, can you just step closer to the
I'm
microphone?
sorry.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so I found Dr. Ward's letter very upsetting. It was not based on any medical science at all. And I was glad that Dr. Lynn published her article in the paper today, and I just am here to offer her support for her position, and would also agree with Mr. Lougheed, who says there's no need for a plebiscite.
Thank you for your comments. Any other members of the community here that would like to speak to this? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Trevor Herbshot. I live at 168 Edmonstone Street. Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Twaddle, I recognize a bunch of faces from the first information session at the library. I'd just like to take the opportunity again to say that in the last couple of years in Canada, the majority of cities and municipalities that have come to the fork in the road that we're at right now have made a decision to defluoridate their water, whether it be through a vote on the council members or put it to a plebiscite and let the people make the decision. I'd just like to take the opportunity to put that information out there and hopefully prompt some people or promote some people to look that up, to validate it and verify it, and take the opportunity to say that I hope that we get the plebiscite. Thank you.
Okay. Message received. Thank you. Any other members here that would like to speak to this? Welcome.
Hello, my name is Nicole Sermon, and I live at 576 15th Street West, apartment 2. I'm a resident here, and I'm really grateful that we can all talk about this. It is very heated. I wish we could all just sit down and talk about all the different information we had and come to an agreement. There's so many different opinions and different backgrounds, so it's quite a challenge, and I really appreciate everyone coming out, and also for all of you to open this up. I would like to see the question on the ballot, and I also agree with both sides that have said that it seemed like a confusing question, and it sounds like you guys are thinking about that too, so that's great. And yeah, I do appreciate the different doctors coming up. I appreciate people who have done their own research from internet. You know, there is a lot of information that can be misleading. There's some that may be, you know, something that we can look more into, and I hope that we can have more discussion on it, just that we can both work things through. So thank you, and good luck. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the issue of the plebiscite or not? I think you have the last word.
Okay, better be a good one then.
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
My name is Claire Louise White. I live at 836 4th Avenue A West. And as a person my age, I'm concerned about all the other people who are my age. And as we get older, DNA doesn't replicate like it used to. We don't get the same bones and the same flesh that we had when we were young people. And also our immune systems are not as strong as they used to be when we were young. And things, poison like fluoride, doesn't help us any. And we don't want weak bones, as the other lady said. We want to be able to walk on the streets like we should. And also our kidneys aren't as strong. They can't handle this poison coming into them. They're weak, and if we also have weak kidneys, then we're in real trouble. We end up with kidney disease, or we lose a kidney. So I think this is a population where we have older people, and we want them to live here. And what about all the people that came here since 1997? They are forced with fluoride. They didn't ask for it. I mean, they moved to our city. They like our city. They want to be here, but here they are with fluoride, and I'm sure they don't want it. And we've been drinking it for 50 years, and it's cumulative. It isn't just like 1% that's going into us at one time. This accumulates over and over and over again. So I'm sure we're all full of fluoride, and it's not doing any of us any good. And I hope that's the last word.
It wasn't set up that it had to be the last word either, just for those of you that are here. And I thank you for your comments. Is there anyone who would like to speak this evening? And it doesn't have to be the last word. There we go.
I'm Ruth Miles from 4th Avenue West. I don't like fluoride and I don't need it. I have false teeth. But it's wearing my bones out and it's wearing my kidneys out. I have to run to the bathroom every 10 minutes. Would you like to do that? I don't like it. It's horrible. If I don't get there in time, I'm in a mess. So I don't want fluoride. And I don't agree with your dentist saying that it's good for you. I heard of a dentist touching one of my relatives' children lately, and it had a baby tooth, and he did a root canal on it. Why would he do a root canal on a baby tooth? My children's second teeth pushed all the baby teeth out. I never even took them to a dentist. Why do root canal on baby tooth? It's all for money. You go to the dentist to get a tooth pulled, they want $80. It's not worth it. Better pull it yourself. I had my husband pull one of my teeth because I couldn't afford the $80. So what do? I don't agree with it. I want fresh water. I have to go up country to my father's farm to get fresh water to drink because I can't handle this poisoned water in Owen Sound. Please change it. Let us have a vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Chris Munn from Grey Bruce Health Unit, and I also am a resident of Owen Sound. I live on 597th Street A East. And I think just this presentation that has happened today with all the people talking and providing the perspectives really shows why the idea of having a plebiscite for fluoride is not necessarily the greatest idea, because there's so much misinformation out there, and with public health issues where you try to do the best you can for the largest number of people in a population, like chlorinating water, when you run into situations where the general public is led by fear and being led by media, and the type of media now that's so readily available by doing Google searches, you're going to find a lot of fear, and it is the small groups that are very vocal that do come out, that really do have very strong feelings that way, that do tend to get a very large amount of play, considering what really is out there as far as an issue for the general public. So it becomes a very emotional argument. There's a lot of that has happened today. It's created a lot of fear, I think, with the general public. And when we look at the public health situation, we're trying to protect the teeth of children and adults and seniors so that people can live a longer, healthier life. And that is the reason for fluoridating water. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else here this evening? Okay, we do have the bylaws on tonight's agenda, and I'm not sure, given the information that we have received that's relatively new, I don't know if council may want to consider tabling the bylaw until we get a legal opinion. And having said that, I want to remind council that we are not a regional government, and we're not part of a regional government. We're a lower tier municipality. We're part of a county, and that's the devil in the details on the Municipal Act. The Municipal Act has counties, regions, and single tiers. And we're not a region, and we're not a single tier, but we are a lower tier, part of a county. But we are the providers of the municipal water system. I'll go to the clerk for further details on that.
Thank you, Your Worship. And if council wishes to direct staff to get a legal opinion, I'm happy to do so. I can advise that I spoke with the region of Waterloo when the issue of a possible plebiscite on fluoride came forward, and it was their staff's consideration that we did not fall into the same category as they did because of their circumstances of having been amalgamated into a regional municipality, and that was not the circumstance that we find ourselves in. I also gave our circumstances in small detail to someone from the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, and had a response from them that the interpretation of the act that we are following is the ministry's interpretation, and that the process that we are following is the process that they deem to be the process that should be taking place at this time. So I'm happy to go forward with the legal opinion, but wanted to provide that background for council.
Thank you for the details around that. There is a report. Would council like to bring that report forward, or would you like to carry on with the body of the agenda?
Bring the report forward.
We'll bring the report forward. It's a report.
I'd like to know the presentation.
We can do whatever council chooses. It's, yeah, this recommendation on page 60, where is it, 64 to 69 is really to receive the report, so there's really no action in that of itself. It's the actual bylaw, so. Will Councillor Twaddle?
Well, I would move then that we receive the report.
There we go.
B2.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a presentation from a city manager with regards to 2013 accomplishments, and I'd encourage members here to stay put and enjoy and watch and see some of the other initiatives that the city has been up to over the last, at least the last year. Thank you, and thank you for coming to speak to the issue.
I told you they'd leave.
Council, yeah. Council will be dealing with the bylaw as to whether or not to have a plebiscite at the end of the meeting as part of our bylaws, which won't follow for probably an hour and a half.
All right, thank you, council. Thank you, members of the public who are going to stay. I think you might find it interesting. Oh, well, no, I'm losing them. Be quick.
The members watching at home will be.
Okay, we're going to, this is regarding the 2013 accomplishments. You know what?
Yeah, we'll just pause. Members of the public, there seems to be some confusion. That meeting was so that we could hear from you and to hear what you had to say. Council will take all of those comments into consideration and will make a decision later on based on what we've heard tonight and all of the reading and the research that members of council have done over the past number of weeks and months.
We were just confused because the paper said that we were not to say anything, we were just to sign something.
Well, we like to hear what you have to say at this council, and I thank you for coming and speaking. Thank you.
Okay, let's roll. Sure, if we could. Okay, council, we're going to go on a journey through the city of Owen Sound and what we did in 2013. Take a look at the map. This is our Cosmos map. Where are we headed first? Here we are at City Hall. And the first thing we accomplished last year was we got a new clock. And it works, and it tells time. We did a new process for our minutes and agendas. They're consolidated on Civic Web, and that's through iCompass. We've really worked hard on our communications and social media platforms. We've got 1,100 fans on Facebook. We've got almost 1,500 on Twitter. We're on LinkedIn. We're on YouTubes. And of course, we're doing all this in a brand new council chamber. Doesn't Wayne look fabulous? We developed and implemented Cosmos over last year and put a number of layers on that. Please take a look if you get a chance on our website. And of course, we had the infamous crash of our website, and we've revised it. We also did a telecommunications review. We're saving you about $3,000 per month now from what it was at the beginning of last year. So it's been very successful. We did 45 civil marriages. 42 of them are still married. No. And we have a new health and safety program. Where are we off to next? Pay attention. Here we go. First impressions with Aurelia. That was very successful. Look at these slugs over there in Aurelia. Having a good time. We had twinning with Dade County in China. We brought them, they were here visiting us. I think it was very, very successful. We also had our visitors from Miamisburg, and we toured them throughout the city and had a really enjoyable time with the mayor and members of council.
Sit them
there.
down, ask them, in a perfect world, what's your timeline? What's your end product? How can we help you reach it?
We want you to come to our community and serve the world and enjoy one of our great assets, which is our quality of life.
We can meet the objective of giving them a successful business and a great lifestyle.
So economics, very high priority for us here now. We've got 54 new businesses licensed in the city last year. You can see many of them there. We have a new sign on 410, thanks to the mayor. So if you're coming north on 410, you'll see that sign. We have a number of new billboards throughout the city, or on the outskirts of the city rather, on 6 and 10. We had 10 site plan applications last year. We had an official plan amendment for the RCA subdivision. We had 3 applications and 2 approvals under zoning, 10 minor variances and 8 consents, and we're working on the Owen Sound official plan 5-year review. So a busy time in planning. We completed the Downtown River Precinct Plan, and we're looking at implementation this year. We had over $15 million in total construction value with 22 singles and 2 semi-detached, 31 condos. We had the veterinary clinic on 10th Street and the addition to Miller Waste on 20th Street, as well as the addition to the school on 23rd Street East and Center Suite condos. And of course, Heritage Place Plaza went up as well. Here we go again, and of course we've got the Sydenham project that was approved pretty much last year, 31 units proposed. You can see they're working on it as recently as today. We have the draft municipal alcohol policy was approved, which is in compliance with the Alcohol and Gaming Commission. And we have the new historic walking tour guide, and I, of course, left it over there on the platform. We've had a number of buildings identified. We had a new one on East Cliff, has been recognized. We had Doors Open, which was very successful this year. Last year was 16 sites, almost 3,500 visits.
I wanted to send you all a brief message to offer my heartfelt congratulations to the City of Owen Sound, Ontario, as the 2013 winner of my Prince of Wales Prize for Municipal Heritage Leadership. As you may know, I feel strongly about the importance of conserving our historic built environment for economic, ecological, cultural, and spiritual reasons. So it is very rewarding to be able to recognize hard-working communities like Owen Sound with this prize.
And the mayor went to Ottawa to receive the award. A great honor for us. Now we're off to somewhere else in Owen Sound. So, we're at the Greenwood Cemetery. What did we do there? We installed monuments in recognition of the Victoria Cross recipients, William Bishop and David Curry, and we did a bylaw update and submitted it to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs for review. Now moving more again to tourism. We've had almost 87,000 hits on our website. We did the Creative Mixer event in our Economic Development Division. That was very successful. We also have the social media platforms in tourism. with a lot of success. 1,500 fans on Facebook, over 1,000 followers on Twitter, 19 videos. Please take a look at them. They're great. And the top video, Owen Sound, Where You Want to Live. Our salmon tour, first one last year, very successful. Okay, here we go again. Where are we off to? To the fire hall. We hired our new deputy chief last year, Bruno Martina. And of course, at the police station, we had 5 contracts entered into for dispatch last year: Hanover, Port Hope, West Grey, and Elmer and Wingham. We completed our sign bylaw last year. And at our library, we revamped the landscape around the library. It looks fabulous now. And at our art gallery, we received an A rating from the Ontario Arts Council, only one of 4 public art galleries in Ontario to do that. And the Tom was rebranded with a new website developed. We developed public art projects, including the Kennedy Wing Machine, the Window to the World mural, both fabulous projects. We constructed in partnership with TAG and the city the Stony Orchard Trail. If you get a chance, please go and look at that. Or better yet, walk it. We got the boat launches open last year. It was looking iffy for a while. We saw probably not a lot of progress on harbor divestiture, but it took a lot of our time. And the rowing club built their shelter last year. And one of our most successful events, of course, was the Tall Ships 1812 tour.
That moved it right out.
Wonderful event. Had fabulous weather for that. We unfortunately dealt with the emerald ash borer last year. We're getting ready. We're just this year just bringing forward a plan on how we're going to deal with it in the most appropriate manner. We're looking at biological control options as well as others. And we pretty much completed construction of our new skate and bike park. We did a whole policy on last minute ice rental. That's been very successful. We again completed our ice allocation policy and procedures, almost an annual event for us. We did new bleacher systems at Harrison Field and Duncan McClellan Park. And of course, if you've been to see the attack, you know we have a fabulous new screen up, which really brings the game close at hand. Our solar energy production is now live on the internet. If you get a chance, take a look at how much money we're saving or making, I suppose, depending on how you look at it. And we had 100% compliance on our inspections for our sewage treatment plant and our water system. We completed and filed our asset management plan last year, and we are going to hear a presentation on that next week or in 2 weeks. Waste Diversion Ontario, we ranked second in Ontario for residential waste diversion. And we implemented our winter maintenance plan just in time to deal with the worst winter in a while. We've gone through a significant amount of consultation on our 3-route consultation, and we've dealt with the AODA as well. At our airport, we have a number of successful flight services and buildings. And now, looking ahead in 2014. We have a combined city, county, and education budget change, which is approximately 2.85%. We have a $40 million budget when you total everything together. Our police service board proposal to provide service to Meaford is coming and being discussed. Our development charges study is moving forward. Our 3rd Avenue East reconstruction, we just received funding notice today on that. We're looking at 8th Street as well. We're the first in the world in Ontario with mandatory accessibility issues. I'm going to become president of the Ontario Municipal Administrators Association this year. And we're going to undertake the wastewater treatment plant upgrade this year. So a very busy year. And of course, the ever important election 2014, and we're going to add the deputy mayor, and we're going to consider fluoridation on the ballot.
Thank you very much for that year in review. Councillor Body.
Ms. Corsi, I just noticed the press came back into the room. Can you start over? That was quite a list. I'm sorry they missed it.
Any other discussion? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Would that presentation be available on our website if somebody was interested and wanted to view it in more detail? Great. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Purdon.
Yes, I want to thank the city manager for the year in review. Also because communication was one of the pieces of our strategic plan, and I think something like this really does communicate not only how much is being done, but also the kind of incredible breadth of things that staff and council and the public are all engaged in to make a community like ours. So I found it very, very nice to see, and lots of great pictures, and you can't help but be overwhelmed seeing it like that, just how beautiful the city is, and it's nice to see that.
It is important to sit back and take a look at the bigger picture often, and to realize that the vision that many of us have for the community is unfolding, and it's unfolding because of the hard work of council and staff and so many people in the community. So certainly thank the city manager for putting that all together for us tonight. We're at public question period. Any members of the public this evening who would like to ask a question of this council? Seeing none, We have correspondence received. One piece of correspondence from Tadeusz Wiklawick, Fire Marshal of Ontario and Chief Emergency Management. This is with regards to Owen Sound's emergency management program. Councillor Wright.
Motion to receive, but it's nice to see that we passed everything. So, this motion to receive.
We are prepared in the event of an emergency. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We have a fairly short consent agenda this evening. Consists of an agreement for the operation of the boat launches, and with any luck at all, the ice will thaw and people will be able to put their boats in the water. Councillor Purdon.
I'd move acceptance of the consent agenda.
Absolutely, thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. My question has to do with overnight accommodation at our boat launches. We do have a policy on that, do we not?
Through your worship, it is regulated both through the zoning bylaw as well as there is a regulatory bylaw.
Okay, thank you. It just appeared that it appears in the report that we allow overnight parking pretty well anywhere.
Councillor Body.
I have a question for you or for Councillor Wright with regard to the report that comes from Police Services. There's charts in there that talk about platoon enforcement statistics. I don't know what those are. Is that hours per shift?
Let me grab it if I can.
I was not present for that particular meeting, so I have to say.
Well, no, it consistently comes in all the reports, but I just haven't figured out what it means exactly. It can't be number of charges laid because there's a quarter here and 3/4 there. I don't know if it's man hours or just
May I ask which one is referring to?
The platoon, the discussion, the charts around the platoon activities.
Those are hours.
Yeah.
Hours.
26.25 hours for foot patrol downtown.
Okay, good.
That's from the one platoon, 29.75 from the other platoon, etc.
Yeah. So it's hours. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I'd just like to clarify with Councillor Purdon that her motion includes the recommendations being approved. Okay, thank you.
Good. 12B1, we have we have correspondence done. We have a report from the Manager of Economic Development. This is with regards to the extension of a subcontract with Bruce Community Futures for services provided to the Business Enterprise Centre and the renewal of the Ontario Self-Employment Benefit Contract with MCTU, Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities. What's Council's direction on this? Councillor Purdon.
Move the recommendation that we approve an extension of the subcontract to Bruce Community Futures and approve in principle the OSEB contract for another year with the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities.
Absolutely. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have dealt with item 12B2, and we are now on to 12B3. This is a report from the bylaw coordinator with regards to the 2014 fees and charges. Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Worship. I would move that we direct staff to bring forward a bylaw for fees and charges for 2014 with the attached report.
Discussion. Councillor Wright.
I have a question, but I need to bring it up first.
Okay.
It has to do on the attachment, the fees and charges attachment. Sorry. Just a question.
I'll invite the bylaw coordinator to step up to the podium in the event that there's a question that we need your expertise on, which there may well be.
It was on the fees, and we were charging the youth more than we were charging the adults, and I thought that was not quite right. But I can't find it. I should have written it down.
Do you know what the service was, Councilor Wright? I'm going to go to Ms. Coulter.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe it's found on Table 3 on Schedule D, dealing with off-season ice, and it reports the adult rate being lower than the youth rate, and those are reversed. The good news is the proposed fee is correct, so I think that was just a typo when the chart was prepared.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question. It's actually on the very last page, 117 in the agenda. It talks about composting commercial brush and branches at the compost site and removing that fee, no longer having that fee. And that may or may not be a very valid point, but I don't think this is I think that should have gone through the proper channels before it made its way here. So I'd ask if that could be referred to operations, I suppose. That issue hasn't been discussed at all that I'm aware of.
I'm going to go to the city manager just to clarify if that has been discussed at committee.
I'm looking to Mr. Hughes, if he can.
No.
It hasn't been discussed. It was a voluntary fee, and unfortunately, like many voluntary fees, it didn't work. People simply stopped. As soon as they figured out we weren't patrolling the compost site, they stopped coming in and offering to pay. There was a couple, I think, the first year it worked fairly well, the second year not so well, and so on. I think we had 2 or 3 people that paid last year, and that was it. So,
with the discussion that's going to be coming forward on the Emerald Ash Borer, and probably the next agenda package, where we're talking a drastic increase in the use of that compost site, and I'm not pretending I know what the answer is, but I think that discussion should continue. So I guess to Mr. Hughes, it wouldn't hurt to leave this in for now and have that discussion further, would it?
No.
It doesn't need to be removed now. There's no pressing need to have it removed now.
No, not at all.
So I'd move that if we could pull that item and refer it to operations for further discussion.
This is a friendly amendment, I would think. Yeah, sure. There's I don't see any problem with that whatsoever. Councillor Lemon.
I recollect there was some discussion about this when we opened the compost yard. And at that time, realistically, the cost of putting someone there 7 days a week from, I'm not sure exactly what time it opens, I think it's 7 or 8, or it's open all the time. The cost, from a cost-benefit analysis, the only way we're going to collect any money under that is if we make it, have somebody there, as we used to at the old landfill, to make sure that people are paying. And I'm sorry, but that's reality. If people don't have to, if nobody's there to collect it, very few people voluntarily will come in, if any, to pay it.
Councillor Boddy.
No.
Thank you, Your Worship. I noticed in there in parking fees that there's a monthly rate. There isn't like a 6-month rate or a yearly rate. And we run into irate people over when they miss their monthly parking, renewing it for a couple of days and they get ticketed. So I wonder if we shouldn't be looking at an annual rate or even a 6-month rate. I will raise that at Finance Committee, I think, at some point in the future, and then we don't have to look at it or discuss it tonight.
Councillor Adair.
The city has a standing policy for the bylaw review committee to, in October, review all parking items. I think if we have 5 or 6 different committees throughout the city looking at parking, we'll be back in the same situation we had before. If we do it higgledy-piggledy once every week, we'll also be in the same position that we were in before. That issue can certainly be dealt with through bylaw at the appointed time when we review, or when that committee reviews all parking issues.
So Councillor Body's suggestion is not a friendly amendment to your original motion then?
A amendment to have that discussed when we deal with parking issues in an appropriate time with the appropriate committee would certainly be friendly.
Okay. I'll go back to Councillor Body.
It's unfortunate when we let policy dictate changing ideas, fresh ideas, and we start to hoard our committees, but that's fine. That's the way it is.
Councillor McManaman and Councillor Lemon.
Thank you, Worship. Two questions, I believe, for the Director of Community Services. The first one, on all our rental fees for our facilities, from 2014 to 2017 in most cases, it looks like we're having a static fee, or the fees are remaining the same. And I guess my question is, that hasn't been determined yet by council.
Through you, Your Worship, the 2014 fee for many of those facilities is recommended in the text to be the same as this year's fees. The 2015 and 16 fees are shown there because in some instances we do book those facilities up to 24 months ahead of a date that someone would choose. The idea that Mr. Smith has put forward in this review is that next year this year actually, we're going to redo this process starting in August, so that on January 1st next year, for 2015, we'll be ready for new fees for 2015. So you're right. In fact, it looks like the 2015 is static, but it's important to have a fee there so that we can actually book a facility. The small number that we'll actually book will be minimal. There'll be a new fee again in 2015.
Okay, no, that's great, thank you. And I just wondered, you have in the campground, a new backpacker fee, which I believe is new, and I think it probably shouldn't go unmentioned, because it seems like a new initiative that sounds interesting.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, we do have a new backpacker fee. So if you don't drive, but you bike or cycle or walk into the park or Kelso Beach, you can park or camp at the Harrison Park Overflow or at Kelso Beach for that reduced rate, because those campers aren't requiring hydro and water hookups or sewage pump outs. So that is a new fee.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith directly?
Well, I'm a little confused because what was proposed by Councillor Body, which I think is a really great idea, is not an adjustment in parking or parking policy. It's just on how we receive the money. And receiving the money 6 months in advance, to me, is really a good idea, because we get the use of that money at no cost. And I think we shouldn't need to wait till parking, because this particular issue is not where we have complimentary parking, where we have paid parking, or anything like that. This is just how people pay, and it makes it easier for people. And the same way we have tried to do that with taxes, we've tried to do that with other permits and fees, and I think allowing a person to pay multiple months at a time has no downside, at least none I can think of.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. It may help to let council know that that is a monthly fee, but people can pre-purchase parking passes up to 6 months in advance.
Oh, they can now.
Yes, so it's a monthly fee, but you can pre-buy them.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Purdon. Oh, okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And thank you for this report. If I could get the clerk to just read the motion back for council, and we'll vote.
Sorry, I have to find it, but it is the motion as presented, save and accept the, the compost items that are 16 and 17 in Schedule K, which I understand that fee, that will be removed so that the fee will continue to exist in its voluntary fashion for the time being.
the item be referred to the Operations Committee.
Right. Okay, everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. Councillor Wright.
I wonder if we could bring forth item 12C3, minutes of the bylaw committee meeting.
I don't see any trouble with that. Is council's objection?
I'm not sure what page.
Page 215 to 258.
I will move receipt of those minutes.
Thank you. Moved receipt. All those, Councillor McManaman.
I'd ask that the issue of the feral cats, item 3B, I believe, be pulled from the minutes, voted on separately.
Okay. So we'll pull the discussion and related motions to feral cats out. So to the balance of the minutes, Councillor McManaman.
Just a question. There's a discussion around 640 2nd Avenue East and parking, and it says that we're going to reinstall, be consistent with the bylaw. I wasn't quite sure what that meant. If someone could answer that.
Councillor Adair.
Well, in front of the old Y, there were, I believe, 15-minute parking signs. During the construction, those signs disappeared. And so we've simply asked staff to, we don't know where they go, where they went, they're gone. I think the construction people took them, or, were recycled or something. So it's simply a matter of reinstalling the signs, because there have been people parking there all day because there's no signs that say you can't do anything in particular there.
Thank you very much.
You're okay with that? Okay. So, the balance of the bylaw committee minutes from March 5th. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Let's have that discussion right now. Feral cats. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not sure if I should go first. I'm not in favor of the motion at all, and there's no discussion in the minutes as to why the staff recommendation wasn't adopted, which said to keep the current bylaw. So everything that I read throughout this is quite a lengthy package we've got here, tells me that we shouldn't be changing the bylaw, that we should be leaving it as is. So in the absence of any other information, I don't know why we would change the bylaw.
Would you like to table this for a further report?
Well, I wasn't hoping
2 weeks'
for that.
time?
No, I think we've got the report in front of us.
Sure.
If anyone would care to speak to it, that was at the committee. That's where I'm more interested in, if that's okay.
Councillor Purdon.
It is true that the documentation with the report from staff says not to change the bylaw, but we actually had quite a detailed discussion at the bylaw committee meeting. I think at the center of it was the sense that feral cats are not wild animals, and we couldn't find any compelling argument to say that a feral cat is a wild animal, and that it's very difficult to tell the difference between a feral cat and a domestic cat that just happens to be away from its residence and out there. So that was at the center of it. Certainly no one in the committee agreed with feeding wild animals. In the sense of the feral cats, that we do have a very good program at the moment that could be expanded as well to identify cats as feral, trap and neuter and return, or adopt out. So we have a really good program that's working now. It's at the river area now, but it could be expanded, and a great group of volunteers. The animal shelter folks were at the meeting, and they spoke about their program of when a cat comes to them, they spay, neuter, adopt out. So we felt we had all of that actually quite well covered, and there was a very strong sense that simply not feeding animals was not the option that we want to do when they were usually domestic pets or feral animals that could be rehabilitated. So that's what the conversation was about. So cats are not wild animals. that's kind of the sum of my understanding of it.
I'll go back to Councillor McManaman and then Councillor Lemon.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I appreciate that, Councillor Burton, that background. My question is, so how do we, by feeding the feral cats, we will attract wild animals? I mean, I think that would be even the proponents in their letters mention that. So how do we a year from now not have, or how is that controlled, I guess? And I agree with you that the feral cat rescue initiative that was about a year or so ago, and I had lots of questions about that when I came to committee, and I would agree with you, it seems like that's been a huge success. They've done great things working with our animal control. So that seems to be working in controlling the issue. If food is put out to feral cats, I mean, and as I said, the letters even say it, they will attract every type of wild animal into our neighborhoods. The staff report from our animal control says they don't agree with that because it will attract wild animals into our neighborhoods. Anyway, I for one could not possibly support that without some, I don't know what would convince me that that was a good idea. If we allow feeding of feral cats throughout the city, at least in my opinion, that will lead to an increase in wild animals in the city, raccoons, skunks, whatever it might be. The letters talk about coyotes even. I don't know, almost certainly that will lead to an increase, a conflict between humans and those wild animals, between pets and those wild animals. It's all documented right here in our, I mean, we have pages and pages of why you shouldn't be leaving food out to feed wild animals, which is in effect what we'd be doing with this bylaw. So, anyway, I in no way could support this motion going forward, and I guess I've said my piece. So I would be, I don't know if somebody wants to move this and I'd vote against it, or I'll make a counter motion, however you want to handle it. But
Well,
those are my comments.
We do like to work on motions, so we'll see if a motion comes forward.
Well, then, if that's, I would move that we receive the recommendation that's in the minutes, and that we move forward with the staff recommended, which was option 1, I believe. The bylaw stays as is, no changes. So I would move to receive those minutes and move the staff option 1, no change to the bylaw.
Okay, that works. Councillor Lemon, and then back to Councillor Purdon. Councillor Twaddle.
Well, this is a very difficult issue. I have a lot of compassion for animals. But I also know that wild animals are attracted by feed that's left out for particular animals. We are in bear country, folks. That's real, whether we want to admit it or not. There are bears on the Bruce Peninsula, and they can come down the Niagara Escarpment to Owen Sound. They, in the northern part of Ontario, there is a great problem with bears going to areas where food is found. If you go to the National Parks website, you will find that they tell you to safely store your food away from your campsite. The other concern I have, and perhaps the biggest concern I have, is rabies. The main animals that move rabies in our area are coons, skunks, and foxes. And foxes will come in and eat food that's left out for cats. There's no question about that. To me, a feral cat is a cat that is very much like the old barn cats that were around when I grew up on every farm. They found their own food and lived on that and lived a pretty good life in a lot of cases, in a lot of barns. But I don't think that we start feeding cats down there. I am also worried about children on the riverbank, etc. And there are diseases that cats transmit, particularly fecal matter for pregnant women, which is a serious health concern. I really feel that the feral cat program that's come up is wonderful because it's acclimatizing some of the cats to a home life. But if we start allowing feeding for that, I believe we're going to be in the same problem, feeding cats rather, that we had in a neighborhood on the West Hill where people were saying they were putting food out for cats, and it brought in skunks, and you could actually see a pattern of wild animals coming in. So I have a problem with allowing, changing our bylaw.
Councillor Purdon.
So we had a lot of that discussion as well, and I don't support Councillor McManaman's motion. There's from the committee meeting, there's two issues. One is that just because you have a bylaw that says you shouldn't feed cats doesn't mean that people aren't doing it. So people are feeding cats. It's done kind of in the background, and it's not done up front because they don't want to see animals starving, or they just feed animals. So that has happened. We've never enforced this bylaw. There's never been anyone charged with feeding a feral cat. And it seems that everyone, or people, are just kind of letting it go. So we had a conversation at the bylaw committee meeting about, really, is there a point having a bylaw that's not going to be, or isn't being enforced, and hasn't really needed to be enforced? There's been some warnings, and based on those warnings, the feral cat rescue group got together and started taking a real approach to deal with a problem, feral cat colonies. So we talked about, wouldn't it be better to educate people about, no, you shouldn't be feeding feral cats, you should be calling the animal control or the feral cat folks and having a controlled approach to this. So it's not the idea that, you know, everybody should put masses of food out for all animals. I think everybody knows you don't put food out for wild animals, and you shouldn't be putting food out and feeding your own domestic pets out in your backyard if you live in an area where there's raccoons and skunks. So we talked about all of that. From a bylaw perspective, it makes sense to have a bylaw that says don't feed wild animals, and to have a process in the community for dealing with feral cats. So that's kind of where we are. Of course, we will now have to, if this bylaw goes forward, have another look at some of the other kind of educational pieces and bylaws around cats and what to do and how to deal with them. So that's just a summary. It felt very practical, and it felt more honest in a way as well to have a bylaw that's going to be enforced.
Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are a couple of issues that concern me, and it's not so much around necessarily feeding feral cats, although I think it does not help the problem. I think it exacerbates it. But we got to this point with this bylaw through a very extensive public consultation. I'm very uncomfortable changing it without a public consultation. And then something that Councillor Purdon just said strikes me, talking about an education process, and really, I mean, in an ideal world, we would not have feral cat colonies. The field naturalists, I think, have fairly strong feelings about feral cats and the havoc that they wreak on the songbird population. I listened to a documentary on CBC not too long ago about this, and the death of songbirds to feral cat colonies is measured in tons, not in body counts. So I think there's a need for that. But Councillor Purdon also talked about, you know, then developing an education process and so on. And it seems to me that if we're going to make a move, we should be doing something out of whole cloth, not in bits and pieces. And that brings me back to Councillor Adair's comments a couple of minutes ago about having a policy-driven process where you do it once a year and you look at the whole package. And I believe that that would have been much more appropriate in this case, that if we're going to raise the issue of feral cats and how you deal with them, then I think we need to go back to the public process that we went through the last time. And I think if you're going to make some changes, then you need to have an educational process as well. I don't think we should be doing one-offs, higgledy-piggledy. I forget your phrase, Councillor Adair, but you know, that's, I mean, and if it's good for a parking bylaw, then the same process should apply to others. And for that reason, I'll support the motion, and if the bylaw committee wants to start a public process and consult everybody who may have an interest in being heard on this issue, then I would certainly support that.
Councillor Adair, and then Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. The thought processes behind this motion was varied, but one of the considerations is that feral cats are not wild animals. And dealing with the feral cat issue, which is a real issue, would be better served dealt with somewhere else than tacked onto a bylaw with a $2,000 fine attached to it to deal with wild animals. Removing feral cats from the bylaw will not allow people to feed skunks or raccoons or fox. If you're leaving food out and those animals are coming to eat that food, you are feeding them and are therefore in violation of the bylaw. We have developed, the city has developed a policy around the issue of the feral cat rescue and allowing those individuals to feed, trap, and spay and neuter and try to rehome those animals. I think the issue of dealing with feral cats is better done somewhere else than in a bylaw about feeding wild animals. When is a stray cat a feral cat, or when is a lost cat no longer a feral cat or a stray cat? There are issues about the definitions as well. But those were the thought processes. That this is not the bylaw to deal with the feral cat issue. It is a real issue. It does need to be dealt with, but this is probably not the best bylaw. Someone puts out some food for a stray cat in their backyard, they're subject under this to a $2,000, potentially $2,000 fine. But if whatever the will of council is what council wishes to do. So,
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. We did have quite a discussion on this, and I guess at the bylaw committee meeting, I supported the, I did not support this motion. I supported what our staff had said, but I had reasons for it. I said, feral cats colonize, and we do have colonies of feral cats in our community, but feral cats basically do not run neighborhoods. If you have a cat running in your neighborhood, it's probably because somebody moved away and left their cat behind. And I don't know anybody that isn't going to feed a cat that comes to your back door and is hungry. That's not a feral cat. Feral cats run at the sign of any sign of humans. They'll get out of your way. They'll run. But a domesticated cat will not run. They're used to people, and they will hang around, and most people will either feed them or call the Humane Society to come and pick that cat up. I think our policy is okay the way it is. As it has been mentioned before, nobody has been charged with feeding a feral cat. The women who do look after the feral cats had been warned once about feeding them, but that was, I believe, before we put this policy in place. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think there is a need to change the policy. I think it's working, and as I say, I don't think anybody's going to let a cat starve without looking after it, calling someone. So I don't want to see us having to go to another public meeting to look through this whole thing again, because it becomes very emotional. We did make the decision on this, and I think we should stand by our decision. It wasn't made that long ago. And I think it's working, quite frankly. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just very briefly to Councillor Adair's point about feeding wild animals bylaw not being the appropriate place to deal with feral cats. With respect, I think that was the decision of council based on the public consultation that we had before. If it's no longer appropriate, then I think I'll come back to my other point. We still need to go through an appropriate process if we're going to make that change. And again, do something out of whole cloth. So I can appreciate the argument that it may not be the correct place to do it, but I don't think this is the way to effect the change.
It's been some very good discussion. Last word, Councillor Lemon.
2 points. Number one, I'm going to ask for a recorded vote on this. And the other thing is that my understanding is that there are 2 types of animals, domestic and wild. Feral cats are not domestic, ergo they must be wild. Feral cats, by their very nature, choose to lead a free-spirited life in a lot of cases. We do have a problem in some neighborhoods with cats walking around. They're not feral cats. They're actually, our bylaw prohibits what goes on, and that is letting their cats out at night. Having been kept awake by a tomcat behind me, I'm well aware of that. But I really feel that we're slipping down a dangerous slope. And I therefore call for the vote and ask for a recorded vote.
I'll ask the clerk to poll council, please.
Councillor Adair.
Opposed.
Councillor Body.
In favor?
Councillor Chamberlain.
Opposed.
Councillor Lemon.
In favor.
Councillor McManaman.
In favor.
Councillor Purdon. Councillor Twaddle.
In favor?
Councillor Wright.
In favor.
Mayor Haswell.
In favor.
That motion is carried with 6 in favor and 3 opposed.
Thank you. Some good discussion, and thank you to everyone involved for bringing this back to our attention. We are back to 12B4. We have a Community Services report on the Sports Hall of Fame, the graphic panel. Council's direction on this one. 118. Councillor McManaman.
Sorry, just a quick, I'm just pleased to see, this is about the new panel for the Sports Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pleased to see that there's some money available for some additional lighting and signage, because I think that's one of the biggest complaints. We have a great, if you can find it, we've got a great display there.
Right.
And so I'm just wanted to make that comment, that I'm glad to see it's in there.
Sure. Okay. Were you moving the...
I was going to leave that for Councillor Body.
Councillor Body.
Apparently there's a historic reason why I'm supposed to be moving it, and in fact there is, as is in the report. My father was one of the founders of it, and I can remember the discussion at the dinner table. He had gone to then Mayor Bob Rutherford, because he'd been somewhere else in a different community, and said, they've got a Hall of Fame. We've got Burlington and Kazari and all these great guys. We need to honor them. To which Mayor Rutherford at the time was very sharp and said, good idea, Jim. Please go ahead.
That's great.
So that's how it came together with the Ramoka Shrine Club and the Knights of Columbus being 2 different groups that got together and had a dinner each year to help fund it. And that was the start. There was a belief, and still a belief, that good athletes make good citizens, and that went right through the whole minor sports system right up, and it's proven to be true over the years. So I'm quite happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We have a report from the event facilitator. This is on the One World Festival 2014. Council have a direction on this? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I'd move the recommendation and essentially have the same provisions as we had last year, that close the hall and the City Hall parking lot market area, promote the festival through city channels, free delivery and pickup of barricades, and all other applicable fees would apply.
Okay. Looking forward to another great event this year. Councillor Purdon.
I'd also like to speak to this, that the city also is highlighted as one of the sponsors for this event. Its logo is on the website and on information that's being provided. So I think it's the type of event that really forwards the city's community and sense of community and profiles the city as supporting and embracing diversity and inclusiveness. So I think it's a very good fit, and I'm very pleased with the motion and certainly will support it.
Thank you. Ms. Corsi.
I would just note, Council, that we are asking you to provide direction on where we are to take those funds from.
I'm going to go back to the mover of the motion. I think that's in there.
I said all applicable fees would apply.
Yeah.
So other than number one would be is as how it's stated, and number two would be all fees would apply.
Further discussion. Councillor Lemon.
Last year, we waived those fees.
Nope.
Did we not? We didn't charge them for a tent installation fee last year, I don't believe, did we?
Go to the Director of Community Services.
Through you, Your Worship, the resolution from March 4th is provided in the background of the report, and it was my understanding that Council closed the City Hall and Market parking lot. We promoted the event, and we provided free delivery and pickup of barricades and recycling carts, and that the other fees applied, as well as there was a requirement for $2 million liability insurance. So that was the motion from 2013.
So the motion that's on the floor would decrease the amount of support from last year?
Be identical.
No, because we were going to charge them for what was on the motion. We're going to charge them for the delivery of the barricades, et cetera. Was that?
No, that's not. Just for clarification, that is not part of the recommendation. For further clarification, would be the exact same as last year, where we did not charge them for pickup of barricades and recycling carts. All of the fees would apply.
That would just be the tent permit.
All the ones listed.
Further discussion to the motion? Call the question. All those in favor?
Point of clarification.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Moving along, we have a report for the use of the Victoria Park, the Agricultural Society, licensed dance and antique tractor pull.
Barn dance.
It's a good old-fashioned barn dance. Councillor Lemon, what do you think?
The last barn dance I was at was a couple of years ago. And I think that's a great idea. They used to have dances at the fair, and I did attend one or two, and or three or more. And I think that's going to be more of an attraction, because that type of country music is extremely popular in this area.
Sounds like a lot of fun. So we have a motion on the floor. Councillor McManaman.
I'm sorry, I was intending to move the motion to support, and I would certainly encourage the mayor to learn how to square dance.
I will be doing the do-si-do really quickly, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't like line dancing particularly. Ms. Coulter.
Your Worship, we are looking for direction regarding the waiver of the facility rental fee that's been requested by the Agricultural Society, and you'll see on page 4 of 7 of the report, there is a section regarding the waiver of the facility rental fee.
So, Councillor Lemon, I'll go back to the motion on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 points within that. And point 2 and 3 refer to waiving of $2,000 security deposit and waiving of the facility rental fee of $281.
Well, and this is, when the city acquired the Coliseum, I believe we made an agreement with the Ag Society that they would not be charged for use of the buildings for their events. And so even though I made the motion, I'm going to make a motion to table this pending staff bringing forth the original Ag agreement at the time of the Coliseum, because at that time, it's my understanding that they got the use of all the buildings without charge.
Okay, the motion is to table. Councillor Lemon, is that until the next regular council meeting?
Yeah, that should be on our records.
Okay. To the appropriateness of tabling. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. They're not being charged for the use of the building, they're being charged for the use of the park. So I will be in favor of tabling the motion.
Fair enough. Further discussion to the tabling motion? All those in favor of tabling? Opposed? Motion is defeated. We'll go back to the original motion. Councillor Wright.
I certainly don't approve waiving the damage agreement. I mean, the security deposit, I think, is important for us to have that.
Okay.
You're never sure what's going to happen, and I don't think the city can be put in a position of being liable for things like that. I feel that we do need that security deposit. That's just that one thing, I think.
Ms. Coulter.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wonder if I could provide some of staff's thinking with respect to the security deposit as well as with respect to the fee. And in terms of the security deposit, each year council is asked to approve an agreement with the Fall Fair Association for the actual Fall Fair event. And each year we recommend to you that we waive the requirement for the provision of that security. We still do an agreement with them so that if there is damage, they are responsible and liable for the repair of that damage in the park following the event. We just don't make the group actually post the security as we would for many for-profit groups. So that's our reasoning in staff not recommending the requirement for the actual security. The wording would still be in the agreement. With respect to the request for the waiver of the facility rental fee, the report speaks to that there is no policy in place to deal with a request like this. We are suggesting that if council is looking for an alternative, that we do have a policy dealing with waiving of facility rental fees with respect to provincial and national events. And that's a 30% reduction in facility rental where there's in-kind promotion of the city through the event. So we would work that out often with the help of Mr. Furness in Economic Development to get in-kind advertising in support of the city for a portion of that fee. So that's offered to council as an alternative.
Councillor Wright?
Thank you very much to you, Your Worship, to Ms. Coulter. I thank you for that. I appreciate that, and I'm happy with that as long as the wording is in there. Like.
Okay, Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. We all, I certainly think we all support the Agricultural Society in 162 years of a Victoria Park. Very impressive. We just dealt with an issue of not waiving a fee for one festival, charging them a fee. Despite my, I don't think we can now turn around and waive the fee for this group, pitting one group against the other. We have no money in our grants budget. We made a conscious decision not to have money in our grants budget for a number of years now. I didn't vote in favor of waiving fees for the group we just talked about, the One World Festival. I can't vote in favor of waiving it here either. But I'm not sure what the motion actually is on this matter. If I could ask for clarification.
The motion is the original motion as was presented in the recommendation, I believe.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Although I do like the concept of the taking some advertising and reducing and not waiving the fee as a possible alternative. So I'd like that one pulled out in just 1, 2, and 4 be part of it, and with Ms. Kohler's information, we haven't charged them a security deposit before. Why would we start now?
So the motion on the floor is that in consideration of staff reports CS 14030, oh no, I'm on the wrong page, I'm sorry, that 1, 2, and 4 be approved. And we will have a subsequent discussion on point number 3. Thank you. To that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Councillor Lemon, with regards to point number 3.
Well, I can see some benefit from the promotion, et cetera, that will go on with this. And so the option of giving them a reduction, provided we get a certain amount of advertising and promotion out of it, under Councillor Finesse, sorry, I just demoted you, Steve, I made you a councillor, the Economic Development Director. So I think that's a reasonable, and I will move that, the 30%.
Okay, to the motion. Councillor Boddy and then Councillor McManaman.
And again, I'm of the feeling that we could have just done this with the last one. We decided at budget time that we weren't going to set money aside in the grant budget, and so I won't support this.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you.
Okay, any others? Councillor Purdon?
I actually am fully in support of doing what we can to help organizations, particularly the Agricultural Society, that is now attempting to do a fundraising event. It's been a part of our community for a long time. I think this policy and approach to supporting festivals makes us very inflexible and doesn't allow us to do as a council what needs to be done in our community to support very important groups. Very often in the history of a group, they try to do something new because they're at a certain point in their development or history as a group, and they need help, support, kind of skin in the game to say, we're with you, and we want to see this succeed. It may not be forever and for always, but it can happen. I know we have no money, but I would suggest that the city needs to look at that differently. Certainly most organizations are very familiar with in-kind approaches to supporting in-kind revenue, in-kind expenses. We don't have the ability the way I think we could as a city. It's a separate item, but I think being asked by a group to strategically support them in an endeavor is an important ask, and we need to be able to be more flexible than we are right now. I'd hate to see a group like this not be able to hold their event because of these types of fees. I don't know if that is the case with the Agricultural Society, but I just think this is part of our history, and I've spoken to this before, and we need to find a way to be more flexible. So I will support the motion.
Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you. I just want to be clear in my mind. It's the city's park. The Agricultural Society exists largely to put on the fall fair. They own some of the facilities in our park. The money that they raise goes into maintaining the facilities that are theirs. They own the grandstand, I believe, but it's within our park. And I'm just wondering whether the policy that we use around groups raising funds to support the city would apply in this case, where we don't waive the rental fee, but that fee comes out of the revenue that comes from it and goes into enhancing the facility. Now, I'm assuming that whatever money they make would go to subsidizing the operation of the fair, but also all of their net revenue goes into promoting it, but also to upgrading and maintaining the condition of the facilities there. Now, the tractor pull and so on would take place on that piece of track. They do have some responsibility to maintain it afterwards. I don't know whether that policy applies, but I just want to ask in that context whether that's a possibility or whether that's reasonable.
Through you, Your Worship, actually, staff hadn't turned our mind to whether or not the waiving of facility rental where groups are raising money for city projects would apply. In this case, we gave you the example. What we said is there's no policy in place. My off-the-cuff remark would be, I think it is slightly outside the intent of the waiver of the policy, but I can certainly see the comparison. But I wouldn't say that definitively without a thorough review of the policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it would be unfair to say, to characterize the non-waiving of the fee as being unsupportive of the Owen Sound Agricultural Society when we have just said we're going to waive the requirement of a $2,000 security deposit for a not-for-profit organization, even one as old as the Owen Sound Agricultural Society, to come up in advance of a fundraising event with $2,000, because you're actually having to write a real check for that amount of money. Waiving that is a huge support for a not-for-profit organization that wishes to put on an event. So I think characterizing this as not supportive of the Owen Sound Agricultural Society is incorrect. We have a policy. I am somewhat intrigued with Councillor Twaddle's suggestion. I know that in the past, and maybe that is under that particular provision, we have not collected that fee until the project has actually happened. So we have said, you owe the fee, but since you're making a fundraising event, the first $281 comes to the city so that the group doesn't need to lay that out. I don't know if that's what Councillor Twaddle was thinking of, but I think at some point this evening, Your Worship, we probably need to move on from this issue.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, and I'll help us move on from it too. I just wanted to, I know these are difficult and it's dollars, cents, and we are being careful of all our money, every line. I remember back when we had Owen Jackson as our mayor, and he brought forward the whole idea of the community foundation, and it really was to follow up with a lot of requests that were being made to the city for small amounts of money just to keep things going. And in no way do we not want everything to be happening in this community that's happening. It's a wonderful community. So I just would remind that there are the granting situation for through the Community Foundation on their website is at the end of April, and this would be a very good ask for them to be able to do. And so when we're working with them, I think it would be nice if we could give them some other options for other money, and that was always the intention of what we were supposed to do around those asks.
That's a good point. Thank you, Councillor Lemon. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, and the problem is that we're getting tied up with policies. A number of years ago, we had horse racing at Victoria Park, which I used to attend on a very regular basis.
Before the dance?
No, it was at every, I think it was a Wednesday night?
It was Wednesday nights.
And one of the things that happened was they needed to have a covered grandstand, or partially covered, in order, at night it became sometimes very uncomfortable on the grandstand. They needed support that was not forthcoming. The Agricultural Society is a not-for-profit organization. It's one of the oldest we have in the area. And they are holding a dance because they need to raise money. And so I'm going to, I would really like to know if this event falls under the city guidelines. And so I'm going to table till the next council meeting this request, make a motion to table pending a report by the planning director, or Ms. Calder, on the interpretation of our current policy.
You know, I'm tempted to just pay it for them myself. it's a $80 difference or something. It really, but anyway, it's council's wish. We have a motion on the floor. And what is that motion again, please, clerks?
To table this report to the next meeting and to receive a report on our current policy.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Any subsequent motions?
We have a motion on the floor to waive the fee by 30% in exchange for being recognized as a sponsor for the event.
Thank you. So that's the motion on the floor. We'll call the question, please. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the Environmental Superintendent, Mr. Hughes, on the household hazardous waste municipal participation. Oh no, first we're going to talk about Earth Hour.
Earth Hour.
Welcome to the newlywed Mr. Hughes. Congratulations.
They're completely unrelated.
You're still smiling? That's a good sign.
The lights were on.
Yes, good.
Earth Hour is an opportunity to raise awareness on the small changes that people can make. Sorry? Right, push the button. Like that? Okay. I was saving energy. An opportunity for people to, it threw me off my rhythm. My rhythm's gone. Raising awareness of the small efforts that people can make to fight climate change. So it's an event that started in Sydney, Australia in 2007, and the city has been participating since 2008. We're basically encouraging people to shut off the electricity and everything they can, lights and unnecessary electronics, from 8:30 till 9:30 on Saturday, March 29th, and the city will also be doing so in the facilities that we don't already shut the lights off in. And it's supported by the World Wildlife Fund and embraced in 135 countries and over 7,000 cities and towns.
Thank you very much for the report, and look forward to the giant light switch. And I think it was Councillor McManaman that was able to make it to the elementary school last year. Perhaps we can get more members of council to attend if their schedules permit. Councillor Purdon.
I'd like to move that we do Earth Hour and receive the report.
Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We now have a report with regards to household. I like that we still call it hazardous waste program.
Yes. The city has partnered with a number of different municipalities almost since the beginning of our program.
Did you say that word partner again? We
Partner,
partnered
yes,
with a
we
number of
partner,
municipalities.
Yes,
Yes, we
It
do.
is a mutually beneficial arrangement. It allows the city to extend the service to other municipalities without incurring any additional costs for city residents. So they pay us a $1,000 administration fee, and they pay for every 54 liters roughly of material, they pay us another $25. And when we get our funding back from Stewardship Ontario, we reimburse them for their $25 fee. And eventually we may be able to waive that fee altogether, but the way things are going with Waste Diversion Ontario and Stewardship Ontario, they keep manipulating the fees up and down, and we don't know. We want to make sure we have the money in our pocket before we turn around and give it back to our partners. Sure. So we have 4 partners, Municipality of Meaford, Township of Georgian Bluffs, Municipality of Grey Highlands, and Municipality of West Grey that participated last year, and they'd all like to participate again this year.
Good stuff.
And the first Household Hazardous Waste Day is on Saturday, April 5th.
Saturday, April 5th.
Yeah.
Always a busy day.
And I'm hoping it'll be thawed by then.
With any luck at all, we can refer to it as spring cleaning. Councillor Body.
Move the recommendation. This is a great thing that, as we say, we partner with all of our area municipalities, and it works really well.
Thank you, indeed it does. Any further discussion? Councillor Wright?
I have a couple of questions, please, Your Worship, through you to Mr. Hughes. Councillor, Councillor, the municipality of Chatsworth is not here. Are they not participation?
They did participate at one time, and then they withdrew. They have one day of their, that they do their own.
My second question, where did these drums go? We packed 500 drums last year. Where do they go?
We have a contractor, Hots Environmental, down in Hamilton. They take the drums, it's probably 85% of it's paint. Much of that gets filtered and resold to places like Cuba, the Philippines, where it's reused as paint. Everything that can't be reused is disposed of in a secure hazardous waste landfill.
So there is recycling done.
There's recycling as much as possible.
Right, that's great. Okay, thank you. Very supportive.
Thank you. There is a recommendation. Did we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Boddy. Any further discussion? Thank you for the report. All those in favor, opposed, that motion is carried. We have boards and committees for approval. 12C1, we have a couple from the Accessibility Advisory Committee, Operations and Planning. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd be happy to move the minutes. Just note in them two things. The LED streetlight conversion plan is in these minutes to move forward. I think that's an exciting initiative for the city. And the second one is the Heritage Conservation Plan in the Community Planning and Heritage minutes. The Canadian Pacific Railway, the CP station on the east side, if we're going to move forward with that and find some use for it moving forward, this Heritage Conservation Plan is excellent. It's really well done, and it will walk people through who might be interested and are a little scared about the whole heritage aspect of it, discusses it in great detail, what needs to be saved, what doesn't need to be saved, and how you might move forward. So I think that's a really good step forward for us to try and get that property moving. So just wanted to talk. I'd move the balance of the minutes, but I just wanted to mention those 2 points. Thank you.
2 key points for sure. Did you have anything you want to say? Okay. Councillor Purdon.
I just wanted to also comment that the Accessibility Committee is working very hard on the draft accessibility plan, and we're really looking forward to moving that along.
Good. The committees are very, very busy these days, indeed. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Minutes of the in-camera council meeting on March 3rd. Motion to move as amended. Councillor Wright. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We are at other business. And I will invite Councillor Wright.
Your Worship, I just want to remind all of us that the Grey County Wardens Forum will be held again, and it is coming up April 24th. There is members attending, and you see the program is already set. It's not a case this year of writing down what we want to talk about, but there are 2 excellent speakers going to be there, Dr. David Siegel, and this would be interesting. He is going to talk about the difference between county government and municipal government and how they relate to each other. And then Phil Montour, lands consultant from Six Nations of Grand River. So it would be nice if we had a good turnout, and perhaps we can arrange carpooling from Owen Sound down there.
If I could just ask members of council to advise the clerk's office if you plan to attend, just for numbers. Thank you. Councillor Adair. Thank you, Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. Over the last couple of years, and just a few months ago, the topic of, or the issue of Economic Development Corporation for Owen Sound or environs has been in the air. And as recently as the Chamber of Commerce's Mayor's Breakfast, where the Mayor of Stratford talked about the successes that his municipality has had with an Economic Development Corporation, I would ask that our Economic Development Officer prepare a report for us on exactly what is an economic development corporation, how is it different than the Economic Development Committee that we have. It seems to me that the Economic Development Committee that we have has many of the same partners that one would seek to have in an economic development corporation. Maybe an exploration of the pros and cons. I think that if this is a good idea, we should probably begin to move on it, but there's been a lot of talk, and I'd like to maybe solidify it out of the ether and have something in front of us so we could talk about the issue of an economic development corporation for Owen Sound.
Very good. Further discussion? Councillor Purdon.
I think the Economic Development Corporation for the City of Owen Sound would be a little different than what was spoke at the Mayor's Forum, which was an Economic Development Corporation from partners in the region. So is it, you just want to have one in Owen Sound, or are you looking at bigger regional approaches?
We'll go to Councillor Adair.
You got to start somewhere. We maybe should start talking about it before we start talking to other people about it and figure out what we might want to do. I wouldn't think, our Economic Development Committee doesn't preclude people from outside of the jurisdiction of the City of Owen Sound from being on that, and I wouldn't see that we would do that with a committee or a corporation. Certainly a regional approach would be better, but I think we should start at home first and see if this is something that we're even interested in. And as we establish that, then other people can come. I would remind Council that many years ago, and Councillor Chamberlain brought this up tonight, there was a little thing started called the Owen Sound Community Foundation. It, however, over time, not immediately, but over time, grew to be the Community Foundation of Grey and Bruce counties. That did not happen overnight. That was not a decision of Council. That's been over the course of many years of slowly getting bigger and slowly moving forward. And that may be the approach to take with an economic development corporation, if we even want one at all.
Councillor Boddy.
Just as the Chair of Economic Development, I looked at their model, and we do have a lot of things that are already there. We should always be looking for every opportunity for change. If it's better to look to do things better, if there's a way, and I think it makes sense to have a look at it. It's not going to cost us a cent to look at a different model and different opportunities.
All right. Further discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. I look forward to that. Anything else? Councillor Adair. Okay. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, thank you. I have two items. One of them follows right up with the Earth Hour type of thing. It's a climate change. The group in Owen Sound that's looking after looking at that very closely is the 350.org group, and they've been having Cabin Fever film series. And next Wednesday night at St. George's Church, they are showing the second in their series on climate change. It's at 7 o'clock. There's no charge, and I just want to make sure that the public knew, and that's a very good introduction, a good discussion about climate change happens at those as well. My second item is, I was really sorry to be away at the last council meeting when we received in the minutes information on the Healthy Communities Conference, and I think that there was an attempt to maybe look for direction, but we basically just received them. So I guess what I would like to do is make a motion that we, because this is another one of those things that the Director of Community Services said, it's an in-kind promotion for the city as well. It's about our partnership with the Healthy Communities Conference. We did it 4 years ago, but maybe what we have to do is have a report brought back so we can look at that. It would look very much like the One World Festival and the one for the Agricultural Society, I'm sure. And it is work, but we do have that request to come forward. And so I'd like to make a motion that we bring back a staff report to look at that request to be partners with the Healthy Communities Conference in May.
Okay. To the motion. Councillor Lemon.
Speaking in support of that request, I think it's the way to go. I think the healthy communities, I am well aware, as the mayor is aware, when the senior summit was held here a week and a half ago, the participants were from not just our community, but from all over the Grey Goose area, and there is a certain benefit to getting a message out. I think that it also, this is an opportunity to show Owen Sound as a community that cares about the people here, and so a staff report is the most appropriate way to go, and I will support.
Okay, further discussion? Councillor Burton.
Yes, I'm really happy that this motion's come forward, because last council meeting, I had made a lot of notes about what a great idea this is, what was set out in that letter, and then we were kind of bouncing around with the agenda, going back and forth, and I kind of missed the whole discussion. It was received the correspondence, and it was over, and then I realized, oh, no, I wanted to speak to that. So I think it's a really important partnership with the healthy communities, and it is really what we want to do here in this city, and I'd welcome a chance to look at that again.
Councillor Twaddle?
No.
No? Okay. Any other speakers to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We're moving on to, yes, I'll come back to you. First, I'll go to Ms. Corsi. Did we deal with that?
No, we didn't. This is regarding the minutes of Operations Advisory Committee of March 12th. You have them on your desk.
They were included in Councilor McMahon's.
I think
you
we
cover
covered
that?
them off.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Did we, I want to confirm with the clerk that we covered those off.
Yes.
Just the LED portion. So they were dealt with in the body of the minutes.
But we do have action here regarding the hiring of a consultant. I mean, if we've dealt with it, I'm fine with that.
Councillor McManaman? Just for
The
clarification.
minutes that were in the agenda package just dealt with LED on the operations. So if that's what we're talking about, that's what I moved. I don't have any other minutes.
There were additional minutes circulated by
Are they
Lindsay
put on your
Watson on
desk?
Friday.
I don't have any on my desk either.
They were circulated to you on Friday.
Well, sir,
and
no,
advised
so
that
I did
they
not
were-
move those. I was moving the ones in the minutes that
Okay.
discussed the LED. I wasn't aware of these minutes.
Perhaps we could get a brief overview of the
Yes.
essence of that particular recommendation and report.
So the important recommendations from that meeting were as follows. One, that the Operations Advisory Committee support the complete street concept and recommends further review and discussion be carried out during the 2015 strategic planning meetings. And that in consideration of staff report 14-012 respecting award of RFP 1326 Owen Sound Transit 3 route validation, transfer optimization, and associated engineering services, the purchasing agent recommends City Council adopt a resolution to award the above noted to Steer Davies Gleave, the highest scored proponent and the lowest bid received at $12,270 plus HST. So those are the specific.
Thank you. Councillor McManaman.
I'd be happy to move those additional points. And I just would point out, if you could just scroll down, whoever was scrolling there. No, other way, sorry, up. My up was down, sorry. No, now too far. It was about the validation. I just wanted to point out that that 3-route validation contract would also deal with any AODA Disability Act issues with transit. So we'll be moving forward on that issue as well.
I could just, if you adopt these, then if I could have a second comment.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you. I'll move those.
Okay, we have a motion
It's important to move forward on that, I believe.
To the motion, Councillor Lemon.
Well, I think as part of this, hopefully they will do a review of the specialized transit, which now is at 100% darn near of usage. People are being turned away on a regular basis. And I said a long time ago, if we're going the route we're going to end up with another specialized transit bus because of the need.
That very well may be.
Very well, maybe it will be.
To the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. You had another point?
If I could, just on the transit study, we are ready to go out to the public tomorrow morning with an announcement that it's status quo until further notice with the 4 routes and keeping the terminal open. So I just wanted council to be aware of that. We're going to do the usual social media. We have flyers ready to go on the buses and at the transit terminal and at City Hall and the library, etc.
Thank you for that. Any discussion? Certainly is a good idea. I'm not going to say any more than that. It is something that we'll have discussion on in the weeks and months ahead. We will now go to Ms. Coulter.
Thank you, Worship. Just a few comments regarding the Healthy Kids Community Challenge application. This is an application through the provincial government, and this past Thursday at Rec and Parks Advisory Committee, the committee received a deputation from Linda Bumstead, Public Health Manager with the Grey Bruce Health Unit. The city is an eligible applicant under the program, and the city has partnered with the health unit and some other key organizations, including the school board, the Family Y, local media, Heart and Stroke, Canadian Cancer Society, to make an application. The application is called It's About Time for Healthy Kids: Playtime, Mealtime, and Sleep Time. So the project has 3 components. The program needs a community champion, and Dr. Lynn and yourself, Mayor Haswell, are identified as the community champions for the project and the application. There'll be more information coming back to council with respect to the success of the application as well as the rollout of the program if we're successful.
It should be a lot of fun, and thank you to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for supporting that, and subsequently council tonight. I think it's a great project that the health unit and the city have partnered on, and again, it's at no cost to the city. So we'll have lots of fun getting kids moving with that one. Thank you. I have one item of other business I would like to cover off, and this is something that I'll try to keep my temper under control because I'm not very pleased. In fact, I'm probably the most angry I've ever been in municipal politics. This is as a result of a letter to the editor that was published on Saturday. And this letter to the editor that was written by the following individuals: B. Leader, P. Vare, A. McDougall, B. Chrisselbrink, S. Mount, and C. McKeever. It was in response to their disappointment of City Council's decision to discontinue the contribution to the MRI and to table the contribution or any consideration of a contribution to the oncology fundraising effort to the 2015 budget. While the tone of the letter is subject of some discussion, there is one statement in particular in this letter that casts doubt on my integrity. And to this point, I refer to is to this date, no correction of the facts have been made. And that is a quote from the letter. If any one of these individuals had taken any time to contact me directly, they would know in fact that on February the 18th at approximately 3 o'clock, I contacted the Sun-Times reporter. I explained and I clarified the councillor's comment around the debenture that had been issued in 2005 under a former mayor, former council, and a former city manager to provide funds for the acquisition of an MRI machine. This was a directed and dedicated request for funds. Immediately following my conversation with the Sun-Times reporter, I sent a message to senior staff at Grey Bruce Health Services to confirm, in fact, that I did follow through and discuss and clarify with that media individual. As a courtesy, I suggested the media may call the Grey Bruce Regional Health Services staff for comment, subsequent to my call to the reporter to clarify the debenture schedule. To be clear, I do not, nor does anyone other than the media, control the message, or how, or when, or why stories are portrayed or covered. I did what I had agreed to do, which was to clarify a member of this council's comments. That was done. I'm always available to discuss this and any other issue with any group or any resident wanting to bring anything to my attention, in fact. And it's really unfortunate that only one member of this small group talked to me at any time on any of these matters. I was not apprised that this letter would be submitted, and I was shocked and extraordinarily disappointed with the tone of this letter. And if protecting the interests of the taxpayers of this community is not the fundamental role of this council, then maybe they've got the wrong people here. That's all I have to say on that. Can we have a motion of committee rise? Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Resolution adopting proceedings in committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wright, that the action taken in committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be confirmed by this council.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. New business by resolution. Bylaws, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wright, that bylaw numbers 2014-031, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 2014-036 be passed and enacted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We're adjourned.